you realize, and these are deep-rooted things because we've, up until this point in life, maybe these are things we didn't even realize, they're just subconsciously drilled into us. But as soon as you put that rucksack down and you realize that you can go through life in whatever way you want, you don't have to deal with anyone else's expectations, questions, worries, concerns, you are free to move.
I think that's one of the main reasons people stop, is trying to get perfect. But from your experience, Lewis, of speaking to lots of people who are wanting to start a business, what do you think are some of the main reasons that hold people back from making a start?
Well, yeah, perfectionism is definitely one. And what was the title of the book that you were just recommending?
So that's called Start Now, Get Perfect Later.
Amazing. Yeah, so that's definitely one we can recommend reading. Another one that I'd recommend is one called Ready, Fire, Aim, which again is about just implementing, getting started, learning as you go. And so, yeah, I think that's definitely one, perfectionism. Another one that holds people back is a sense of maybe a fear of failure, or even a fear of imposter syndrome that holds so many people back. Maybe they had a conversation with a colleague in a hotel in London when I was still working in the job, and they said to me, we saw this group of like entrepreneurs who were really cool in this like swanky hotel, and they were all sitting there sipping their flat whites and had their MacBooks out and like running their businesses and stuff. And we looked at them, we're like, oh, they're obviously like a group of entrepreneurs. You could tell they were headphones in, just working on whatever they were doing within their online businesses. And the colleague said to me, I'd always seen you as an entrepreneur. And I was like, she said, have you ever considered the startup world or entrepreneurship? And at the time, this is going back years now, but I remember thinking, I didn't think that I'd ever had permission for that. And it's almost like someone had to tell me that they saw me in that position for me to realize that, yeah, I've only got to give myself permission to become an entrepreneur and make that transition. No one else is going to tell me that you are now an entrepreneur from today. So it's that mindset shift. And it's like someone had just opened the door for me and told me, you can do this now. You can start this business. It was only me holding myself back with all these limiting beliefs that I had that was restricting my personality to, I'm just a good corporate employee and I take a salary and that's the person that I am. But as soon as you expand your identity and realize that anybody can do it, you just have to have the willingness to learn along the way. I think that's very liberating.
Yeah, look, nobody's going to tell you that you are an entrepreneur or you're going to become an entrepreneur. You have to always tell that yourself. And I agree that everyone has entrepreneurial traits in them, but you need to bring them out. If you're in a job 9 to 5, you don't have to rely on any entrepreneurial sort of skills, but actually you've got them within you. You just need to decide that you're going to use them and use them to start your own business and start to go after your own goals.
Yeah, so when people are worried about failing as well, and they're thinking that's the reason why they're not starting, and whether that's the surface level reason or whether actually they come up with another reason that's like, oh, I'll do it after my holiday, or I've actually got quite a busy season at work and then I'll do it after that, or, I'm going through some stuff at the moment and I need to sort out some other business deals before I enter into this. Oftentimes those are, I think when you hear those and when you hear yourself saying them, you have to catch them and say, is that really the reason? Or is it deeper rooted than that? And oftentimes when you follow the thread right through to the deep level reason, it's fear of failure. It's that you don't want to put yourself out there in case you fail. And that is, I liken that to wearing a rucksack full of weights and trying to walk through life with that on your back. It's weighing you down. It's stopping you from reaching your full potential because you're constantly trudging along trying to get through life, but everything's more difficult. And if you don't ever take the leap, it's because you feel so heavy, you feel like there's this weight. But as soon as you learn to let that go and just drop it, and you realize that you can release those worries, and it means you're so much lighter. It means that you can walk through life without it weighing you down. You've not got all of that conditioning from your friends and family and colleagues and all of those beliefs about entrepreneurship and how maybe that's not the label that was assigned to you. You can just let go of those things. You realize, and these are deep-rooted things because we've, up until this point in life, maybe these are things we didn't even realize. They're just subconsciously drilled into us. But as soon as you put that rucksack down and you realize that you can go through life in whatever way you want, you don't have to deal with anyone else's expectations, questions, worries, concerns. You are free to move. Most of those concerns are actually just projections anyway from other people. Most of the people who in your life tell you that, they may not say the words, hey, you can't do that, but they'll just express their doubts. And what they're trying to do, maybe not intentionally, they don't realize it, they maybe didn't take the opportunity that you now have at your fingertips. And they don't want to be proven wrong by you succeeding, because then they'll feel like they didn't take the right path in life. right? So it's almost like an insult on their identity that when they hear that you're on the verge of potentially making this life-changing change of direction and experiencing this newfound freedom that an online e-commerce business can give, and they feel like they're trying to help you by offering safe advice, but really what they're doing, it's in their interest deep down to keep you in your place because they don't want to be left behind by you. And so they might feel later, if you succeed, they'll regret not having taken the opportunity that they wish they would have done years ago. So sometimes you really do have to tune out other people in your life and make sure that you're focusing on what you want to do and just putting down that rucksack.
Yeah, that's a really important point. You've got to almost look beyond the words that people are telling you from outside and look underneath at the reasons why people might want you to go down a safer route. They might have your best interests at heart, or they might just be looking out for themselves to make themselves feel better. But you need to look beyond the words and the warnings that they're giving you and think about perhaps why are they giving you those warnings, or why don't they think you should start? Try and reveal back the layers and look at that. And also on your earlier point, Lewis, I think it takes some self-awareness as well to look at your own thoughts and the excuses that you might be giving as to why now isn't a good time, and also to peel back those layers of the thoughts you're having and look at the deep-rooted reason. Perhaps it was definitely for me, but the reason that you had these excuses about not starting is actually that deep underlying fear of embarrassment or failure or something if it doesn't go right. But once you can see it for what it is, instead of the excuses that you give, like not knowing enough or not having any experience, those sort of the surface level reasons that you give, as soon as you look under that, you can start to tackle the real reason. And once you tackle that self-doubt and the fear of failure and realize that that's all it is, it's a natural instinctive sort of brain mechanism that's in place, then you can start to get past that and really make a start into something and go towards the goals that you've got.
Yeah, and the fear itself that you mentioned actually manifests itself in various different ways. So one of those ways that's quite difficult to spot, especially when it's yourself experiencing it, is procrastination. You find yourself saying, okay, I'm going to launch this business, but the first few weeks it's all about, logo design and creating the perfect website and doing all of these things. And you realize, are they essential in order to make your first few sales? Probably not. You could have a very basic logo and be in business quickly, make some profits, reinvest those profits into getting a great logo later. But people spend too long on the stuff initially. And the reason is because they're procrastinating. And it's a form of fear. They're trying to hold themselves back from taking the actions that might expose them to the risk of failure that they're worried about. So the other way that we see it happen is excessive research. We'll speak to people, potential members that might be thinking of joining our program, and they'll say, it all sounds great. Yeah, I'm totally in. I just want to spend a little bit more time doing a bit more research. And oftentimes what they really mean is they're seeking validation and reassurance from others. They might want to, say, hey, I'm thinking about joining this community. What do you think? Well, remember that person's opinion about what we do is going to be very tainted by the choices they made in their life, right? So take that with a pinch of salt. Don't let someone else dictate your future by asking them for reassurance if they're not in a position that you want to be when you reach their point in life. So that's a really good one to catch. The other thing is too much reading. Sounds controversial, but there is such a thing as just doing too much reading. You're just trying to absorb as much information as you can, watch too much on YouTube, but it's all input and no output. You're not taking any action. And I think if you don't feel slightly scared every single day by the actions and the size of the actions that you're taking towards achieving your goals, then you're not taking big enough actions. You're not taking big enough steps. Unless they're slightly scary, then you're not leaving your comfort zone.